Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., constitutional attorney and associate deputy attorney general under President Reagan, Bruce Fein. Bruce, what's most striking to you? If we look at things through a due process prism of what we saw transpire in day one of the open testimony, what sticks out to you? Is it the amount of hearsay that's now considered evidence? Again, through a legal perspective. Is it questions that are not based on factual evidence? What is it? What stands out to you through a legal perspective?
The intent of the president is critical here, and you have no one of the witnesses had communicated with the president. So they're operating at the outer edges. And intent, as is customary in law, both civil and criminal, is pivotal here. And there isn't any way that if you haven't communicated with the president on this issue, you would be able to ascribe a particular intent. I also think that what is a little bit weak about the Democratic effort here is that Ukraine is, they try to make out like our relations with Ukraine are the beginning and end of our foreign policy. It's largely irrelevant, in my judgment, to the United States. They're not a member of NATO. It's like refighting the Korean War 150 years ago. We don't celebrate any tyranny there. Russia goes in and gets Crimea, but Ukrainian borders have changed all the time. Under President Obama, he resisted providing any military aid whatsoever to the Ukraine. So what is the big deal here? And I think that the narrowness and the effort, I believe, of the House Speaker to run this very, very quickly and to kind of throw it in the lap of the Senate by December is going to boomerang. Yeah. I do believe that the Senate would have an inclination to make sure the process is complete and full. You got 6 Democratic senators who are running for president who'd be dragged back in. I think right now the strategy of the Democrats is a total and complete blunder.
All right, so the smoking gun evidence from day one, according to the Democrats, is this staffer who overheard a conversation ostensibly between the ambassador to the European Union, the Sondland, and the President of the United States, if it indeed took place, at a restaurant. So this is the smoking gun piece of evidence the Democrats are talking about. The hearsay is beyond hearsay, right? This is tertiary information. Well, in a court of law, this would not, a judge wouldn't even entertain something like this, would he?
No, that certainly would not be true in any kind of criminal case. And at best, you're exactly right. It has no influence on deciding what was the intent of the president and how it was understood by the recipient of his communications. And there you obviously want primary figures. You were showing before I came on the show what the president of Ukraine thought the intent was. That is direct evidence, and we have the president himself. Now, obviously, it's possible that people can lie, but who's going to second-guess them? Especially when there was nothing odd about a disinclination to provide the weapons because it was a policy that President Obama himself championed.
Let's stipulate all of this is true, what the Democrats are saying. And the President of the United States was, quote, more interested in having the President of Ukraine investigate what the President wanted him to investigate. To that, I say, so what? So what the president, his intentions are in terms of policy. This is a policy issue, and for that you can't be impeached per the United States Constitution because of the plenary powers of the Constitution. It gives the president great latitude in executing national security matters.
Well, yes. I mean, there is a little glitch. I don't necessarily think it's an impeachable offense. Under the Budget Control and Impoundment Act, if Congress appropriates the money, and remember, it was Congress that then went to the president and said, you need to release that money. The president can't just decide not to spend it on his own. But that, in isolation, surely doesn't rank in the justification of an impeachable offense where you move a president of it. Again, I think the Democrats are trying to inflate a flea into an elephant, and that's just not going to wash. It's a very, very narrow issue, and basically what we heard is a dispute over State Department people who think Ukraine is the beginning and end of international relations because that's what their whole job is, saying, well, gee, this undercut our ability to negotiate
Right.
and have a prosperous relations with Ukraine. But you know what? The State Department officials weren't elected, and they have their own interest in trying to inflate how important Ukraine is. But really, to the United States, how many viewers, how many people in the United States believe that it's important to the United States' safety and national security whether Ukraine stays unitary,
Right.
whether Crimea goes to Russia or not? I say I don't celebrate it, but by and large, it's a speck on the international chessboard.
And remember this, Bruce, they're also charter members of the swamp that Donald Trump promised to drain. Bottom line is, the case being built by the Democrats is very narrow. One phone call, one incident. It pales in comparison to the history of this country and how the other presidents who were brought up on impeachment charges and their charges rate against what the Democrats are doing now. Bruce Fein, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.